Buenos Dias BMGs, aka Warriors. I am Trekk and this is Weekend Crypto. So I'm on the road. Got to kind of switch up the schedule that I usually do my recordings on. I'm actually cutting it earlier in the day right now. Still down here in Florida, doing the family stuff. But nonetheless, I do got a couple of stories. There were a number of things that happened this week. Again, usually I try to wait until like the later Sunday evening just because something could pop off. Because I usually run off the UTC time, but nonetheless, that's enough details behind the scenes stuff. Let's jump into these first stories right here. I was going through Twitter this morning and I seen this and I was just like, wait, what? Bankless got their YouTube channel cut? If you've never followed Bankless, Bagels definitely gives out some pretty good info, very high quality production, high quality information in relation to things going on in the Ethereum ecosystem. But to see this happen to them, and they weren't even the only ones that got cut. I would say over the last like 4 days, because there was 2 other channels also that were crypto based, crypto blockchain based that also got cut. And the interesting part in regards to these guys is, at least the way they're saying it, is we didn't get any warning. We don't know what we did as the first strike policy thing, or was there a second thing that no one told us about, or did something just change? Now, again, this is, I'm not really gonna beat the horse in on it, but the to put this to note of, this is what happens when we are highly dependent on using other platforms that have these kinds of services, that have these algorithmic systems that can just arbitrarily cut your channel off, or work to throttle your numbers, work to throttle your count, work to throttle your viewership thing. And like, you see the same thing happen here on the Gentleman in Crypto, and we talk about it all the time, but we still push through. Again, though, it is really kind of sad to see that this happened to them. I mean, it happened to Trump, what was that, like a month or so ago? And then even Bitcoin Magazine, they got cut off of their stuff in the middle of the live stream. What I find interesting about this is, based on what I was seeing on another article, they were then doing a whole talk of like, oh, well, here's why we need Web3. I'm gonna put this in the caveat. Some of y'all might not like how I'm putting this out there or framing it. There's an event that happened, and this is an continuous thing that has been happening within the YouTube ecosystem and how they're either throttling or just totally dropping people's stuff, right? And you have people who are out here now with their own brands and incentives and everything, and saying, well, we need to start pushing on Web3. Web3 is going to give us all these bells and whistles. I'm here to tell you, folks, all of this nice, everything good under the sun is going to happen just because you have Web3. I promise you, it is not going to play out how it's being marketed. And I say this on the end of, I see things happening in the general blockchain crypto space now that I remember what the early marketing narratives were. I definitely drank the Kool-Aid on a number of things. And I look at what's going on now, and I'm just like, oh, wow. That is not how we used to talk back in the day, or that's not what the promise was. That's not what the pros were of how they were marketing what this new technology would do for us. And I think that the same thing is being pushed over into the whole Web3 argument. Yes, it is going to allow for a level of control and granular scalability and stuff like that. But there's going to still be players in that are going to be the gate guards, whether it be a person or whether it be an algo. One of these two things is going to be a part of this new Web3 movement that everyone keeps pushing. I'm not going to beat the horse on that one. We're just going to jump into the next story. You can challenge it if you see me when I'm on like the live stream in the chat, and we can go from there, or you can just say something in the comments. Again, if I'm talking trash and what I say don't make no sense, you can always down like this video. It's all cool with me, or you can just say something in the comments. That works with me too. Now, jumping into, this, by the way, was another one of the dudes. I met him at Shitcoin, Gabriel. His joint got cut too, because apparently the email he used was not the email he was using to create the content, like when he was adding in new stuff. Not really gonna run into that whole thing, but the point being is that there's something going on behind the scenes within YouTube that they're definitely cutting people's stuff, and it seems arbitrary. But I think that if they're using the algos, somebody wrote the algo away that just, you put something in that says, oh, if too many words of this are mentioned, or the timeline runs this way, there it goes. I don't know. I'm not a coder. Pushing on, right? Next thing, this one, I had to read it a couple of times to like really figure out what was the real like tea in this whole article. And honestly, it was like 2 lines. I'm not gonna lie. At least for how I read stuff like this, right? Uh, when you're constantly like taking the information and cross-referencing the different news sources, it's the difference between when you're just a casual reader or a passerby in like any news cycle or any information that is put out to whatever touch point. But when you're constantly doing this and you've been doing it for a while, there are certain like either keywords or phrases or the way things are put together that you go, oh, I see what the angle is, or oh, this is an indicator for something else. And so in this particular article right here, Bitfinex appoints Gil Dixon to help streamline regulatory compliance. Who is Gil Dixon? Now, I'm not saying I know Gil Dixon. I don't know Gil Dixon, but I do know the company that Gil used to work for. That's who I do know. And I'm not saying I know him like, oh, I got people there. I just know the name and what they did or what they do. Okay, so before joining Bitfinex, and Gil's basically the new guy who's going to help deal with their regulatory expansion into other countries and jurisdictions. That's what he's there to do. Why? Because Gil used to work for Grant Thornton. If you don't know who Grant Thornton is, Grant Thornton is one of like, I think, top 3 globally, basically accounting firms, right? And so um, he knows who to talk to in the traditional regulatory and financial settings, or at least he can have a good enough, hey, excuse me, introduce me to such and such. And he can go in these various jurisdictions, whether you're talking about Europe, whether you're talking about Latin America, whether you're talking about Asia. He probably got the connection and know who to talk to within maybe 2 people. I'm gonna give him the maybe 2 people, if not directly. So what I would say for this is Bitfinex is about to make some moves between now and 2025, as this man is now on the team. So if somebody who uses Bitfinex, this could be a good look for you. And for those of us who are more on the DGen, DeFi, kind of side of it, this is also another thing of like, see, we're going kind of the way of the dodo bird. The exchanges are moving more and more into the traditional financial realm. And they're doing it not as far as Bitfinex is about to make some moves now that they got this man on their team. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. Now, what was the other thing? Oh, so this is another indicator to me that Bitfinex is definitely going to make some moves. They got what is this called? The single euro payment area. It's basically a system that's used over in Europe. They're able to get on board with it because they partner with a company called OpenPay. These are the business development sides that are getting them to make the inroads into the traditional financial sectors, right? Whether you're talking about at the enterprise level, at the country, regional level, even through the regulatory body stuff. But this stuff matters if we're talking about adoption. Now, granted, I might not be a fan of the adoption, but one of the things I keep saying is that this technology is open for any and everyone to use, right? So we're talking about governments, we're talking about individuals, we're talking about corporations, we're talking about public companies, private companies, we're talking about the T words. And so it's open for everyone. It doesn't mean you're always going to agree with how they use it, though, but it's there, right? Was there anything else? No, there was actually nothing else that really jarred me in that story. So jumping into this next joint right here. So Colorado is making some moves. Colorado been, doing what they do for the last like 10 years or so right now. And it's interesting to see that they're also now trying to pioneer their way within the crypto thing. We'll kind of see how it goes. What caught my attention in this story, and when I read it, I had to go through and look at it more than once. So basically what's happening, Colorado senators are considering a bill to study the feasibility of using security tokens offering for state capital financing. Basically, they want to be able to be like, they want to come up with another system that works for them to get money from the public. That's the bottom line of what this is.
Arguably, this is Colorado's version, or at least they're questioning, hey, can we do our own volcano bond and then use that money to build infrastructure? That's basically what's going on right here. I'm not going to get into the details on this stuff right here. Here's what I found more interesting. They put together 500 million to do this. People, they put together 500 million to question how can we figure out if we can do this. I don't know nobody over there in Colorado. I'm just saying, you could have came over here to the gentleman of crypto and we would have knocked that out for you with the execution and distribution implementation plan for like 10 million. I'm just saying, it don't cost that much to figure this out, y'all. It don't cost that much to figure it out. Other interesting thing to note, for those of you who are on the whole Miami coin thing, there's actually a reference to Miami coin in this. Where is it? I didn't tag that part. Oh, here we are. So I'm gonna read this first two lines, right? State financing traditionally comes through income taxes, sales taxes, and federal transfer. While tokens such as Miami Coin have attempted to create a new income stream to invest in local projects, they are not officially backed by local governments. So they're talking about like city and then like state level, and then you have federal level stuff. This is more working at state level. So like all of the different individual cities and states cities and towns and stuff can go into their own thing of what they want to do in relation to this. Nonetheless, there's a Miami coin reference in here is my point. Other states are taking notice. This ain't financial advice. This is just saying there are some trends that are about to start popping up. I don't know who's going to be the one to actually like make it when you look, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. But for right now, there's some things popping up and there's some people who are going to make some money. Case in point, like whoever came up with the 500 million as the bill for just talking about studying whether you can make a tokenization for infrastructure development within a state or a city. 500 million. That was the budget for this. Anywho, jumping on to the next thing. So, basically, crypto.com is like, what's dude's name? Not Michael Keaton. I forgot his name, but if you've seen the commercials for like the future, something for the future favors the bold. I'm sorry, I'm being like kind of dyslexic and all right now. Future favors the bold. So I read the article and I was like, oh, so Damon's out. Okay, cool. We moving on to the next person. So now this dude, I'm not a sports person like that, so I'm just totally mess up his name. But NBA All-Star Joel Embiid is going to be the new face for Crypto.com. Here's what got me about this article, y'all. Dude is in the video, but he doesn't talk. Now, Ken could probably confirm this, and there's a whole difference between like when you're in a video and you're just there in your likeness versus when you actually say something. Then you have the people who do voiceovers. I don't know how the coach worked out to have a deal where he does the voiceover for this commercial, but the coach is in the commercial because he does the voiceover for it. Joel himself just does the walking around in the video. And I don't know who's getting the most of the money on this one. I just thought it was interesting. And then it made me question, like, was it that they didn't want him to talk because of his accent? I never listened to him talk, so I don't know. But I'm just saying, this deal kind of got me where it's like, how did the coach get in on it? Nonetheless, another thing that I was thinking about this, they talk about the numbers. So since Bravery campaign started, Crypto.com exchange trade volume showed approximately a 250% increase. The total volume hovered around 475 million on October 25th, 2021, before the campaign first started. Now, numbers is always a cool thing because you can tell X amount of things by it, but then you also know that some people can use numbers to manipulate what they want you to understand. I'm not saying they're manipulating what they want us to understand here. What I am saying though is Joel isn't the first I'm gonna say black face that is gracing the campaign stage for crypto.com. I'm going to throw it out there and say this. If there's another person of color, and particularly Black person, that comes up on crypto.com's like roadmap for campaign trajectory, it's about to be popping for them. Because we all know here in the US, once you put a black face on it, it make money. Like, it don't matter what industry it is, it make money. You want to talk about jails? They make money off of Black people. You want to talk about sports? They make money off of Black people. You want to talk about whatever is in pop culture, the music industry? Again, I'm just saying that's how I'm putting it together in my head. Again, if you disagree with me, hit me in the comments or catch me on Twitter. You know, again, this stuff is just like how I see it. It don't mean I'm 100% right or even 100% wrong. It don't even mean my perspective or takeaway on this is the right one at all. But again, you could down like this video, I'm cool with that. Or you could up like it too. Or you can share and tell a friend, right? We can go either way on this thing. I got a couple more of these things to jump through. Where we at? Oh, so this joint happened with Meta is talking about, well, Meta, Facebook basically via IG is talking about being able to use supporting NFTs on the platform. Quick take for me on this one. Again, not that much interesting. I usually just jump through and find the one or two lines that really hit me. This is a pilot, small thing just for the US market. It's not international. It's not going to be for everybody else outside. This also sideways leads to KYC because you're going to be basically on Facebook and you're connecting your MetaMask wallet. So arguably this is a sideways KYC thing. Another point they make out here is that it's going to be free. I believe that it's only free for the trial period of when they figure out, are we getting enough volume of activity from people that are showing us that, hey, we hit a certain benchmark, now we can start charging. And somebody already checked the numbers on this. I'm gonna say I 100% guarantee that somebody already crunched the numbers to be like, what is the bare minimum we can charge them for this and then still be able to turn a profit? Somebody checked those numbers already, and they're just waiting to see what the actual activity and volume of activity and interest looks like. Once they figure that out, you best to believe there's going to be an extra new kind of like, oh, well, if you want your NFT, just like what they do now with the pay promotion side of IG, like if you want your stuff to get more exposure and impressions, they artificially throttle you and then tell you you have to pay in order to have people who chose to follow you see you. Again, as somebody said the other day, in the thing I was listening to, Instagram is in competition with you for everything that people see on your stuff, because why would they want the companies to pay you directly on stuff versus paying them? And that's this whole thing we're talking about right now with like Web3 and all of that stuff. That plays into that too. Anywho, jumping on to the next thing. Excuse me. And so Nvidia fails to disclose crypto mining revenue impact in 2018. Now, when I read this, at first I was like, wait, they were mining? And the article doesn't say it exactly, but no, they weren't mining. What happened was, because of what they make as a product, which goes into mining devices, the SEC decided there was an issue and basically hit them with a, hey, you owe us 5.5 million. I imagine they probably made like 5 times 5 million in regards to how they were selling out their chips that were going into the mining section of the crypto space. Nonetheless, the SEC decided that this is for the public service of the good of the people. It really wasn't about the people, it was about the investors, but the investors didn't really care. And again, I'm not running through like on the whole story thing, just because the whole thing isn't even worth reading. The bottom line is the SEC took it upon themselves to go get $5 million, and it's not like they're giving it to the investors in the company. The investors already made their money, and none of them was complaining. All right, jumping off to the next. What was it? North Korea gets added into a new sanctions list. Now, I am generally not a fan of this whole thing about sanctions and like how all of that stuff is going. Why? because I mean, it's just up close with me, up close. I'm not a fan of how the sanction stuff works because it basically boils down to who's in what clique, who's cool with who, and it for the era and timeline that when I got in this space, if we talking about this whole thing being inclusionary and everybody can be a part of it and the technology is open source and blah, 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 stuff like that goes total opposite of what the values were for when I got into space, or at least the marketed narrative of when I got into the space, right? I understand that a lot more now. Now, jumping into the story though, basically what happened is X amount of money got hacked out, and now X amount of the centralized companies and the governments are like, hey, well, we're gonna start tapping in on these different countries and we're gonna start putting people on lists. Now, I've been saying this for weeks and months, and I keep telling folks, it is no big conspiracy. OFAC is a real thing. Read this first line here. The Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctioned Blender.io, a North Korea linked crypto mixing service that obfuscates the origin and destination of Bitcoin transactions on Friday, and added the Bitcoin and their Ethereum addresses to its blacklist, which basically means this. OFAC said, if you were doing any type of traditional financing where you were doing KYC and you have a compliance department, we're sending out this list to all of you guys that if you take anything that touched one of these addresses, that's a no-no. That's what they basically did. Didn't stop the technology. They just decided that, hey, we're going to go after this particular company. We're going to put them on the no-no list. And now we're getting back into this mentality of, well, you have to listen to the authorities, and they're telling you how they see it as a good or bad thing on why you shouldn't use something that's open source, that's available to everyone. Again, I have my issues with things, but it's just me, myself, and I, right? Jumping into this other part that got me too, where whoever this person was from the Treasury statement, they just threw out a statement that is like the cliche, like, oh, everyone knows this is what it is. While the purported purpose is to increase privacy, mixers like Blender are commonly used by illicit actors. I need y'all to understand again, when you looking through these things as much as we do here on, you know, the Gentleman of Crypto, and just in general, when like you're doing your research or your due diligence on stuff, you gotta understand like the way they word stuff and they throw out those negative, you know, statements, but they don't give you numbers, or they do it in a way where it sounds like, oh, well, you know, the person from this department or with this title of authority said blah, blah, blah. Commonly used. That's a word game right there. But nonetheless, this is where it's at right now. Blender's on the no-no list. So if you've been touching Blender at any point, guess what? You got traced too. That's the bottom line of that situation. I'm gonna leave it there with that. Like, if you touch Blender at any point, or you touch the address, I would argue probably within like 3 to 4 hops, you're probably somewhere tagged on some list somewhere. Just saying. Last thing, of course, again, the last thing they always throw out is, oh, we got to talk about, you know, it threatens national security. That's the issue, blah, blah, blah. All right, I'm going to jump into this last story, y'all. And this one. This one right here is something I talked about a couple weeks back. And I'm following back up on it because I seen it pop out. I think it was Saturday or something that it popped out. And I said, all right, I got to touch on this one. Just to show, like, we pay attention. We pay attention, we collect the receipts, and we be telling folks, it ain't always how you see it, like how you hear it in the story. But here we go, right? Last story, by the way. All right. So, Latin American crypto revolution on hold as Argentina throws spanner in the works. What basically happened was the Central Bank of Argentina was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Y'all local banks and businesses can't do no crypto stuff. I'm gonna read the statement. Financial entities may not carry out or facilitate their clients to carry out operations with digital assets, including crypto assets, and those whose yield are determined based on the variations they register. They are not regulated by the national authority and authorized by national banks. Again, this is that whole thing of, I'm not telling you the technology don't work. I'm just telling you as an authority, you can't do this, even though the technology still works. Again, this is that whole thing about being available and like inclusive on the end of it can work for anyone. Government, private company, private citizen, public citizen, whatever, it don't matter. Now, here's the next part that I'm gonna jump into. And what was it? Holders. Okay, it goes to the other part. Sorry. So what was also happening was when they initially wanted to do this, what happened? There's a company called Lyrium. They partnered with a couple of the local businesses, and they were starting to get the process rolling for Argentina local businesses to be able to use cryptocurrencies. Lo and behold, this is what happened literally just within the last week, where the central bank is like, no, y'all can't do nothing. Again, I talked about this story a while back. The reason why the central bank came down on them, on the country, and was like, no, y'all can't do this, is because the government decided to do a renegotiation on this IMF deal for the money that it owed. And in that deal, it literally stated that the country could not promote, and they had to do things to throttle the adoption of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. It was in the deal, and the people who are in the regulatory body as their, their senators and their Congress people, they basically was like, all right, bet, we're gonna sign this. This happened in February. When it was going on, there were protests in Argentina. And then in the month of March, it came out later on where they tried to make it sound like, oh, the IMF sneaked in deals, like, bylaws into the agreement with Argentina that will throttle blockchain and crypto development. They didn't sneak in nothing. When they were having the protest, and Pomp said this, and I had to like follow up on it. Pomp phrased it in a way in one of his joints where he was like, oh, the people in Argentina are fighting for crypto and blah, blah, blah. No, the people in Argentina were fighting because they knew that the new IMF deal was going to ruin the country. They were fighting because they knew that the regulators, the people who they wanted to put in power to be like, hey, make the right decision for us, was basically selling the people of the country up the river by renegotiating this new deal with the IMF that made them owe more money, that was going to limit them on the whole thing of how their monetary system was going to work. And this is besides the crypto stuff. This is just a regular economic system I'm talking about, as well as like what the government had control of and what they would have to sell off when they defaulted again. I'm beating the horse on this one. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make this point. This stuff be happening, and I be trying to tell y'all, the OFAC and the IMF report came out last October. They literally stated what they was going to look to do to throttle blockchain adoption, to throttle cryptocurrency adoption, and to definitely do things from a regulatory standpoint to criminalize and make people scared of messing with it. This is a global thing. Again, it's not no big ass conspiracy. They're not sneaking stuff in. They literally put it out in public what they're doing, and people still acting surprised. That's what annoys me. But all right, that's the last thing right there. I'm done, right? I'm done. So I'm Trekk with Duques. This is the Weekend Crypto. If you don't know, we got a whole lineup of shows that cover a number of different parts of the space. We talking from NFTs to the trading side of it, to talking with Reggie Middleton and what he's going through with his patent, with bigger players and names in the space. And we covering all the angles. We even covering the crypto news going on in the Caribbean and stuff like that. And I got the weekend side of it. And so if you don't like what I said, it's cool. If you don't like it enough to put a down thumb, that's cool too. If what I said makes sense in any kind of way, definitely leave a comment, give a thumbs up, share it with your folks. Also, don't forget to check us out on, Mondays is when I drop, but then Monday through Friday at 10ish is when the live stream of Gentlemen of Crypto with King and Zay come on. Other than that, y'all, I'm sorry I ran long on this one, but I hope something in here made sense and clicked with y'all or getting y'all to see what's going on in this space. The narrative of we all gonna make it, nah, dog, it's not what y'all think. All right, I'm done. One.